everyone. Welcome back to Reddit Affair Diaries. How's your day going so far? I hope it's been great, but if not, don't stress. You're in the perfect spot to relax and dive into some juicy relationship stories. There's always something new and unexpected waiting around the corner here. Before we jump in, leave a comment and share something good from your day. Let's keep the good vibes going and start this story together.
Our first Reddit story comes from the subreddit r/actual lesbians, where Opie loves his wife, but her concerns about their age difference grow as he gets older. When I was in my late teens, I found myself in a relationship that many people wouldn't understand. I met a woman through work who was much older than me. At the time, I didn't think it mattered, and honestly, I didn't care. She was going through a difficult time in her life. She had just lost her husband and was feeling pretty broken. I was in a rough spot emotionally too, struggling to find my way in the world, and somehow we connected. At the time, it felt natural. We didn't plan it, and it wasn't some grand romance that followed the typical pattern of a relationship. We just gravitated toward each other, like two lost souls looking for comfort. She was older, sure, but we had this deep understanding of each other's pain and loneliness. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, we were in a relationship. She helped me through some of the most challenging parts of my life. She supported me financially and emotionally while I went through university, and later, she was there when I pursued my master's degree. She was a solid rock when everything else felt uncertain. Our relationship was complicated, but it worked for us. We didn't think too much about what others would say or think because at the time, it felt right. After I finished my studies, we decided to take a big step. We got married and then moved to another country so she could be closer to her grandchildren. Yes, you heard that right, grandchildren. I know it's unusual. There's a 25-year age difference between us. I'm not going to specify exact ages because, to be honest, I'd rather keep some things private. But the gap is big. It's not something most people would be comfortable with. And over time, I've come to realize that maybe I'm not as comfortable with it as I thought I was. Back then, I believed age was just a number. It didn't seem to matter because we were happy, or at least we convinced ourselves that we were. I was young, and she had this wisdom and experience that drew me in. She made me feel safe, supported, and loved. I didn't have to worry about the future or what others might think because, in our little world, none of that mattered. We were building a life together, and it seemed like we had everything figured out. But 5 years into our marriage, I can't ignore the elephant in the room anymore. As I get older, the age difference between us feels more significant. It's not that I love her any less. I still care deeply for her, but I find myself thinking about things that didn't bother me before. When we first met, I didn't care about how big the gap was between us. Now, I can't help but wonder how this relationship will hold up as time goes on. Recently, I've been having a lot of mixed feelings. On good days, everything feels fine, like nothing has changed. We laugh, we talk, and we enjoy each other's company like we always have. But on bad days, I think about the future, and it's hard not to feel uneasy. The truth is, the older I get, the more uncomfortable I am with the idea that she's so much older than me. It's not something I would have thought about 5 years ago, but now, as I reach my 30s, it's becoming harder to ignore. It's strange to think that when we first got together, I was barely an adult, and she was already well into her life. She had lived through so much, had a family, experienced love and loss, and yet there we were starting something new together. It didn't feel odd at the time. We were just two people who connected, who needed each other in ways that made sense to us. But now, as I reflect on our relationship, I find myself asking questions I never thought I would. I wonder if I would ever be with someone so much younger if I were in her shoes. If I were in my 40s or 50s, would I be comfortable dating someone in their early 20s? And the answer is no, absolutely not. I can't imagine being with someone that young now that I'm getting older. It makes me question why I didn't see the issue when we first started dating. Maybe it was because I was too young to really understand what I was getting into. There's no denying that our relationship has had its ups and downs. Lately, though, the downs seem to be outweighing the ups. We argue more than we used to, and I can't help but think that the age difference plays a big part in that. We're at different stages in our lives, and sometimes it feels like we're not on the same page anymore. When we fight, I can't help but think about how different things would be if we were closer in age. I don't blame her. and I don't regret the choices I've made. But it's hard not to wonder how our relationship would have evolved if we didn't have this massive age gap hanging over us. Would we still be struggling like this? Or would we have more in common? More shared experiences to hold us together? I want to make it clear that I love my wife. I do. She's been there for me in ways that no one else ever has, and I'll always be grateful for that. But sometimes love isn't enough to fix everything. I'm struggling with feelings of discomfort and uncertainty about our future, and it's not easy to talk about. I haven't told her how much this is bothering me because I don't want to hurt her. She already has enough on her plate, dealing with her own health issues and the challenges that come with aging. The last thing I want to do is make her feel insecure or worried about our relationship. But I can't help but think that maybe she feels the same way, even if she hasn't said it out loud. There are times when I feel guilty for even having these thoughts. I chose to marry her, after all. I knew what I was getting into, or at least I thought I did. But it's one thing to think you can handle something and another to actually live with it every day. As time goes on, I'm starting to realize that maybe I wasn't as prepared for this as I thought I was. Sometimes I wonder what other people think when they see us together. Do they see a happy couple, or do they see the age difference right away? I try not to let it bother me, but it's hard not to feel self-conscious when I'm out in public with her. I've noticed the looks, the whispers, the way people seem to judge us without knowing anything about our story. It's frustrating, but it's also something I can't control. There's this constant inner battle going on in my head. On one hand, I love my wife, and I want to make our marriage work. On the other hand, I can't shake this feeling that our age gap is becoming more of a problem as time goes on. It's like this invisible barrier that's slowly growing between us, and I don't know how to break through it. One of the hardest parts about all of this is feeling like I don't have anyone to talk to about it. Most of my friends are either in relationships with people their own age or they're still single. They wouldn't understand what it's like to be in a marriage with someone so much older. And even if they did, I don't think I'd feel comfortable sharing these thoughts with them. It's something that feels too personal, too complicated to explain. So I keep it all inside. I try to focus on the good days and push the bad thoughts away, but they always seem to find their way back. I know I need to have a conversation with my wife about how I'm feeling, but I don't know where to start. How do you tell someone you love that you're struggling with something as fundamental as their age? It feels impossible to bring up without causing hurt or resentment, and I don't want that. At the end of the day, I'm left with a lot of questions and not many answers. I don't know what the future holds for us, but I do know that I can't keep ignoring this forever. Something has to change, and I'm just hoping that when the time comes, we'll be able to face it together. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. It's not easy to talk about these things, but sometimes just putting it out there helps.
Hey, OP, it's completely normal to have mixed feelings about things like this, especially as time goes on and life changes. The most important thing is to be open and honest with yourself and your partner. Try to have a gentle conversation about how you're feeling without pointing fingers or placing blame. Relationships evolve, and it's okay to admit when something is weighing on you. Focus on what brought you together in the first place and see if you can reconnect over those shared experiences. No matter what, remember that relationships take work, and facing these feelings head-on can help both of you grow stronger.
Our next Reddit story comes from the subreddit r/moral dilemmas, where OP want to know is the age gap between him and his potential partner weird. I'm a 22-year-old guy who just graduated from college and is currently job hunting. It's been a weird transition period for me, adjusting to post-college life and figuring out what's next. During this time, I met someone at my part-time job who I really connect with. She's 18, and we've started spending more time together, getting to know each other better. Honestly, I didn't expect to meet someone like her, especially at this stage in my life. I'm at a point where I'm thinking about my future, what kind of job I'll land, where I'll live, how to build a career. Meanwhile, she's in a similar place, even though she's a bit younger. She's not planning on going to college. Instead, she wants to focus on working, moving out of her parents' house, and becoming independent. That's the part that resonates with me. We're in the same mindset right now, trying to figure out adulthood and navigate the responsibilities that come with it. But here's the thing. I can't help but feel conflicted about our age gap. When I was in college, I would never have considered dating a freshman. It just seemed off to me. At that time, even a few years difference felt huge, like we'd be at completely different stages in life. But now, things feel different. I'm out of school, and so is she, and we're both on the same path in terms of wanting to build our lives. Despite that, I can't shake this nagging feeling that maybe people would judge us for the age gap. For years isn't a lot, but when you're 22 and dating someone who's 18, it can feel more noticeable. I've caught myself overthinking it, wondering if it's weird or if people might look at us and think I'm taking advantage of someone younger. That's the last thing I want, and I certainly don't see it that way. But I can't control how others might perceive the situation, and it's hard to ignore those thoughts. The thing is, when we're together, none of that matters. She's mature for her age, and we talk about real things. Our goals, our fears, and what we want out of life. I feel like we're on the same level mentally and emotionally. It's easy to be with her, and I've started to care about her more than I expected to. Sometimes I wonder if the concern about the age gap is just in my head. I mean, people date with bigger age gaps all the time, right? But there's still this societal expectation, especially for someone who just finished college like me. I guess part of me is still adjusting to life outside of school, where things are less defined by age and more about where you're at in life. I try to remind myself that age doesn't always determine maturity or where someone is in their life journey. I've met people in their late 20s who still seem lost and unsure, and I've met younger people, like her, who have a clear idea of what they want. She knows she wants to work, become financially independent, and move out of her parents' house soon. I respect that drive in her. It's something I relate to, especially since I'm in a similar situation myself. But as much as I want to let go of my doubts, I still find myself thinking about the future. If we continue to get closer, would the age difference become more of an issue down the line? Right now, it doesn't feel like a big deal because we're both starting out in life, figuring things out together. But what about in a few years? When I'm 26 and she's 22, would things still feel as aligned as they do now? It's hard to predict the future, and that uncertainty keeps creeping into my mind. I haven't talked to her about these concerns yet. I don't want to make things awkward or overcomplicate something that feels good right now. At the same time, I don't want to ignore the fact that this is something that's been on my mind. I feel like it's important to be honest with myself and with her, but I'm not sure how to bring it up without making it seem like a bigger issue than it really is. In the end, I keep coming back to the idea that we're both adults and we're both in similar places in life. The age gap is only a number, and if we're compatible and enjoy each other's company, does it really matter? I want to focus on the connection we have and the way we support each other. She's made it clear that she values independence and responsibility, and that's something I admire in her. I guess the question I keep asking myself is whether I'm letting societal expectations get in the way of something that could be meaningful. It's easy to get caught up in what other people might think, but at the end of the day, they're not the ones in the relationship. I am. And I don't want to miss out on something good because of my own insecurities or fear of judgment. The more I think about it, the more I realize that maybe the age difference isn't the real issue. Maybe it's just my own internal struggle to let go of the idea that everything needs to follow a certain timeline, or that relationships have to fit into neat little boxes. Life doesn't always work that way, and relationships definitely don't. She's someone who makes me happy, and I feel like we have a genuine connection. I don't want to overthink it or let doubts cloud what could be a great thing. So, maybe the best thing I can do is take things slow, enjoy getting to know her, and see where it goes without putting too much pressure on it. I've learned that relationships aren't always about where you start, they're about how you grow together. Right now, we're both in similar places, figuring out what we want from life and how to achieve it. That's what matters most to me, and that's what I want to focus on. If the age difference becomes a problem down the line, we'll deal with it when the time comes. For now, I just want to be present and enjoy this connection for what it is. After all, life is unpredictable, and no one really knows what the future holds. I don't want to let fear of the unknown stop me from exploring something that feels right in the moment.
Hey, OP, a 4-year age gap between 22 and 18 is pretty normal, especially since you're both adults and in similar stages of life. What's important is how you connect and where you're both at mentally and emotionally. But as long as there's mutual respect and understanding, the age difference shouldn't be an issue. Just take it slow and focus on building a healthy relationship. Don't worry too much about the gap unless it starts to feel like a problem for either of you.